For more on this, we're joined by Obianuju Iloanya, who is a social justice advocate, and also by legal practitioner and Arise analyst Frank Tietie. Gentlemen and lady, you're both welcome to Newsnight. Let me start with you, Obianuju. Do you find this interesting that the panel was giving a free hand, as it were, to come up with what is an incriminating indictment against law enforcement agents?
Yes, I am very much impressed by the fact that they were given that free hand to do that. For the most part, I was scared about what the panel was going to come up with, being that it was set up by the government. A lot of times, I have questioned their ability to come out to be truthful and transparent in their dealings. So I was a lot impressed when the report came out and they were able to stand by the truth and to reiterate the truth that we have all known, we have always known, that the Lekki massacre happened, that people were killed at the Lekki Tollgate, that people died that night and at the hands of the military, people who were supposed to protect young, protesting, peaceful people. It was a painful truth that we had to look at, because for the past 1 year, we've been gaslit by the Nigerian government. We've been gaslit by different people on social media who told us that the Lekki massacre was a farce, that it was a lie, and we have always had to struggle to come up with the truth, to make them, convince them. What this report does is to establish a fact. It also gives an opportunity for victims and survivors of the Lekki massacre to be able to move for justice and get justice now with the backing of this report. Yeah.
All right, Frank, let me come to you. In February or March, if my memory serves me right, the US actually said there was no, evidence that the military actually shot at the Lekki Tollgate. And in September, not too long ago, the UK re-echoed that position. Of course, we all know the Nigerian government has also said that this was a phantom massacre. What do you make of these recommendations, and which of the findings really are most troubling to you?
All right, thank you very much. All of those persons who made statements with regard to what happened on October 20th, 2020 were just premature. They didn't conduct any fact-finding mission to that Lekki Tollgate. Interestingly, what they ought to have done was to simply say a panel of inquiry, a judicial one for that matter, has been set up. Let's wait for its report, and then we will be able to take position. So they now have to swallow their words, and it's unfortunate to that extent. But for Lai Mohammed specifically, I would say that he didn't think that he had any option but to say the things he said. And one would earnestly wait now for his response now that the panel's report has been brought out. Oh, well, I do not find any of those reports, the items on those reports, troubling. They were simply matters of fact. After all, it was a judicial panel of inquiry. It was fact-finding. It needed to give opportunity to the persons who experienced the Lekki Tollgate shooting, to both victims and witnesses, to actually testify before the panel. And we are happy. There is a healing process around the entire world right now going on, because there is verification of the truth. And that's to a large extent the purpose of the panel. Not much should be expected from the panel, given the history of panels in our country. Not much should be expected, so we shouldn't raise our expectations too high. However, the fact that truth is being exalted to this point where it remains undisputed by an independent panel, I think commendations should go to the Lagos State government. Lagos State has always been a progressive state, in my own opinion. We've had panels all over this country, in Kano, in Adamawa, former Gongola State, in all over the place, but we never made any value out of them. And that's the most painful one, was the one in 1981 particularly, with Justice Anyagolu's panel on the Maitasinia riots of 1980. That could have stopped Boko Haram only if they had listened, only if they had just, worked out the white paper that was presented. So all of this talk about recommendations and white paper, to the extent of having policy direction and possibly another legislation that will assuage the terrors that were associated with that massacre, all of them might not just happen because of the standard of governance that we operate in our country.
All right, Obianuju, let me bring this to you. I mean, let's even look at some of the recommendations.
We'll
we're going on break. Oh, okay. We'll take a short break and return quickly.
We're glad to have you back. You're still watching Newsnight here on Arise News. The United States says it's looking forward to suitable measures that the Nigerian government will take on allegations of abuses against security agents indicted in the Lagos #EndSARS panel report. In a statement, the U.S. says it welcomes the conclusion of the panel's report and is looking forward to the actions the government will take. It says it's waiting for the Lagos State government's response as part of a process that represents an important mechanism of accountability regarding the EndSARS protest and events that took place near the Lekki Tollgate.
Right, we still have social justice advocate Obianuju Iloanya and legal practitioner and the Rise analyst Frank Tietie. Frank, let me bring this to Obianuju actually. Obianuju, let's talk about some of the recommendations, or maybe first, a key finding by this panel where they actually said that the military exacerbated the situation by not allowing ambulances to provide help for those who needed them, and that the police too actually picked up bullets and some corpses in order to hide the October 2020 incident. What do you make of that? And when one of the recommendations says there's a need for apology, who really do you think should be apologizing?
What I make of that report is what I've always said about the Nigerian security services. They are heartless people, monsters, who do not care for the lives of young people, of people. Okay, but yeah, that's fine. But I try my best not to be harsh when I discuss issues of police brutality, even though I'm a personal victim of such. But you find out that for a coordinated attempt to wipe out evidence, to tamper with investigations, with evidence that will be indicting on your person, it means that it was a premeditated attack. They planned it, they wanted to do it, and they carried it out. So when they say an apology should be issued to people who were victims and survivors of police brutality and Lekki massacre, I think it's not enough. We should also be calling for the prosecution of the people who committed this crime. That is why we should demand for the person who gave the order. That is why we should also be demanding that the Lagos State Governor, Judicial Panel, be impeached or step down, because these are indicting reports. This report is a pointer to the fact that human lives are not valued in Nigeria. It is a fact-finding judicial panel, and it has found out this fact to be true. We shouldn't be having the conversation of just apology. We should be taking actions. Apologies will not heal the pain that families are living with. It will not change the fact that young people were sitting down on the floor, raising the Nigerian flag, begging and crying and screaming for their parents, and they were shot at. Apologies will not do better or will not save them. What we demand is what we should be asking for is for action. The lieutenant colonel that led the battalion to that place should be prosecuted. The police that helped in clearing out and tampering with evidence should be prosecuted. Then the governor of Lagos State should also tell us who gave the order, and better still step down or get impeached, so that we can have proper investigation to what happened and get proper closure for the people who were affected by the Lekki massacre.
All right, Tietie, let me still take you up on this question of the army. The panel's report avers that the issue of whether the army kept to the rules of engagement is immaterial, since the deployment of the army to the Tollgate was, according to their report, unwarranted. So there arises the question of who deployed the army to the Tollgate.
Thank you. We are always, coming too late. We've had several opportunities to have addressed what we are experiencing now in Lekki Tollgate. I mean, in this as the outcome of this report. Kaduna State set up a panel of inquiry to look into the circumstances surrounding the killings of Shiites by some persons, some personnel of the Nigerian army. Recommendations were made. A particular army officer was mentioned for the purpose of being prosecuted. I mean, first of all, dismissed and be prosecuted. Nothing happened. You see, when we have this culture of do nothing and just sweep under the carpet, all of these thousands of panels of inquiry we've had since 1960, we will keep repeating the same mistake. So, in the first place, it has been a shame that we've always deployed the Nigerian army for simple law enforcement duties. That is it's a terrible thing. And then, when you ask a pointed question that who should make an apology, it is the Nigerian state, not the Lagos state government. And again, when you look at the threshold of gravity of the suffering that the victims have gone through to the point of death, somebody just has to be a scapegoat, but certainly not necessarily the Lagos state governor. I would have expected that he should be drawing up a list of persons he will sack. And then again, the same thing applies at the federal level. Sack some persons to show some measure of value for this report. If we don't do something that is commensurate to this kind of horrible malfeasance in law on the part of law enforcement agents, it will be terrible. You made reference to the US. Look, we should stop all of these international prevarications and double standards. When the US wants to drive its own agenda, it applies the Magnitsky Act and all of that in order to block sales of arms to a country that does not respect human rights. For goodness sake, under President Buhari's administration, we've recorded quite a large number of human rights violations. Yet, the President Trump administration did not consider applying the Magnitsky principles in ensuring that Nigerian government sits up. Yes, I can tell you, I look at history from a very scientific point, and I can tell you that nothing much will happen from all of these recommendations. But I look forward to the international community. Even though what happened in Lekki Tollgate may not meet the threshold of something that can be categorized as crime against humanity. But you see, the international community, particularly the United States and the United Kingdom, must put pressure on the Nigerian government to honor human rights obligations that it has to the international community. Until we get there, we will not see anything. So the Nigerian government, the Lagos state government that does not control the police, takes responsibility for what the police does in Lagos state, to the extent that it has now set up a panel to look at the horrors of police brutality in Lagos state, suffering the pain and to the extent the losses of NSAS protests. The Lagos state government should be commended, but we must see some high level, actions. I can also predict to you that the Lagos state government, with the kind of body language that I see in the governor, might go ahead to pay those sums of compensation that have been recommended by the panel. But that is not enough. What we want is to avoid a repeat of this kind of terrible thing that is actually traumatizing the entire world now. You need to look at the international reportage on this in the last 12 hours. Our country is in terrible bad light in the eyes of the world now. The federal government, President Buhari, needs to do something. Somebody high up there needs to be sacked. I don't want to think that it should start with Governor Sanwo-Olu. He has done very well, but he should list a number of persons to sack to show that he's serious.
All right, Frank Tietie, lawyer, Rise analyst, thank you so much. And Obianuju Iloanya, social justice advocate. Thank you. Of course, there were 32 recommendations by that panel.